So on this Ability Sunday, Carolyn's really kindly agreed to come and to share some of her family's story. So first of all, thank you, Carolyn, so much for agreeing to do this. It's amazing. Okay. So many of us know you and your family, but for those of us who don't, can you please tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Okay, now I have to say I'm so nervous about standing up front, I've even written down my name, which is not a great start. But anyway, I'm Carolyn, I'm married to Gareth. We have 3 children. We have Isaac, who is our son, who's our eldest, and he has Down syndrome. Then we have Manon, who is at university in Manchester, and she's partially deaf. And then we have Nia, who's just started, Manon's in Leeds, and Nia's in Manchester, just started at university.
Okay, great, thank you. So, yeah, that's great photos. So what would you like the wider church family to know about being a parent of people with additional needs?
I've struggled with that because there is so much. But what I've kind of narrowed it down to is to look at 2 different paths, I think, that I've walked along. The first was when Isaac was first diagnosed, we had no idea. When Isaac was born, he was diagnosed with Down syndrome, and we had no idea. Those weeks, months before, we'd happily been preparing names for our son or our daughter, and suddenly when we were there was those names no longer fitted him. So early one morning, I was sort of restless and praying in hospital still, and I thought back to a sermon that I'd heard just a few months before, and it was about Sarah and Abraham. And it's the sermon I don't remember, but the part that I remember, and it was an overwhelming sense of God heard Sarah's pain. And that, for me, was one of those kind of moments in life that stay with you. I really knew that God heard my pain. That night before, Gareth, who was at home, had been praying most of the night and then was reading in the morning his Bible and came to the story of Abraham and Sarah. And for Gareth, it was more that we didn't want to be on this path. As he was looking at that and talking to God about it, we didn't want to be here. We didn't understand why we were here. But trusting in a loving Heavenly Father, we would go forward and give our lives and our son to him. So that has been one side of the path, where I've known God is with us throughout, even from those very early days. I think the second path that it wouldn't be fair not to say is that difficult path. I think for a parent with disability, your world is different from that moment of diagnosis. Your world is different from your friends and your colleagues. And often that path is a very lonely path. It's a very isolating path. It's a very difficult journey. Sometimes there is no way through. You have to forge your path. You advocate for your child, and you have to sometimes fight for your child. You're supported by lots of professionals, some of which are good and some of which are not. There's the endless paperwork that goes with a child with special needs. And sometimes you just hit a brick wall, you just don't know which way to go. But in all those circumstances, I can say that God is with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a comfort it is to know that God is always with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, next question. What ways do you think that church can be made more accessible for people with disabilities?
I guess from our own personal experience, Isaac has had a ball in church. He's done all of the school groups, he's done all of the Cypher Scouts, he's done Cubs, and he's loved it all. So thank you to those that have persevered with that, because that's not always been easy. I think ability comes in different levels, and we need to keep to working at supporting all different levels of disability. I think that's what I would say.
Okay. And lastly, is there anything else that you would like to share?
I suppose just perhaps to remember that sometimes our children don't find accessing our worlds easy. So I think I'd say loving tolerance, maybe. Thank you.